platinum. Is platinum ready to shoot to the moon? Let's talk about that. Welcome to myfinanceteacher.org, where a member a couple of days ago asked me to have a look at platinum. This is exactly what we're going to do now, and I'm going to share this outlook for platinum with you on YouTube. And if you like this sort of analysis, I do regular updates on a range of assets, including cryptocurrencies, precious metals, energy, commodities, and the general stock market. So if you like this sort of analysis, consider joining us by clicking this register button. Now coming back to the chart of platinum, which looks sort of like the chart of gold. It has generally been going down for quite a while, all the way since February this year. So perhaps platinum is becoming a little bit oversold over here, especially 2 or 3 weeks ago over here at the end of September, where it came all the way down to $900 from the February peak of over $1,300. So first, looking at the technicals do look good. Platinum spiked a little bit, bouncing up from that $900, hit its head on the 50-day moving average, and of course had to cool down for a while, and it took a second attempt for platinum to break above that 50-day moving average. Over the next few days, perhaps platinum might actually retest that breakout of the 50-day moving average before the rally actually continues, most likely all the way up to that 200-day moving average, somewhere close to $1,100. So if that scenario plays out, perhaps over the next several weeks, just technically speaking, you'll have something like an extended shoulder on the left hand side, a bit of a head over here, and an extended inverted shoulder on the right hand side, giving you the height of this head and shoulders formation of around $130, $140. So technically speaking, the measured move up from that breakout above the neckline would be a move up to around 1,160, which kind of does align pretty well with some of the resistance zones, such as this July high and multiple lows all through the autumn over here and also early summer. So if this inverted head and shoulders plays out as technicals usually do, perhaps platinum might rally to somewhere around 1150. However, on the other hand, it seems that this 200-day moving average might turn out to be a relatively strong resistance zone. Another technical factor that we should probably consider is this death cross, where the 50-day moving average crosses down below the 200-day moving average. Yes, it is generally a negative sign for the technicals. However, the 200-day moving average is rising over here, which is a bit of a silver lining. And if you look at history, there have actually been quite multiple death crosses where the 50-day moving average was crossing down even below slightly downward slope 200-day moving average, as during this 2020 pandemic crash, where the death cross didn't actually lead to any continued weakness in platinum. Just after that death cross, platinum has actually recovered pretty well, nearly doubling in price in around half a year or so. Looking further back in history, we see multiple death crosses, again sometimes leading to a significant decline in price, but sometimes not. As in mid-2019 over here, short-term death cross didn't actually lead to any decline at all, whereas this example from mid-2018 did actually lead to a prolonged decline in platinum, where platinum dropped all the way down from around $950 all the way down to nearly $760. So that's my view on the death cross. I don't think it necessarily implies that platinum is going to drop out of bed over here, especially after such a decline already. I would expect at least some sort of a relief rally up to that 200-day moving average. And perhaps you might say the rally has already taken place. After all, the price is already poking above the Bollinger Bands. But perhaps the Bollinger Bands are not that wide yet. So perhaps these pokes don't really indicate the end of the rally for now. If you zoom out a little bit, looking at the lower part of the chart where we see the Bollinger Band width, we see that poking above relatively wide Bollinger Bands does become kind of important, where the Bollinger Bands reach up to somewhere around this line. That's about 0.18 on the Bollinger Bands width chart. Let's have a look at a few examples. Over here in December 2020, we have a poke above that horizontal line on the Bollinger Bands width chart that was close to those multiple pokes above very wide Bollinger Bands where platinum had to correct. Again, something similar here in February this year. Again, that was already above very wide Bollinger Bands and a correction coming. A poke on the other side below the wide Bollinger Bands over here in June this year, when the Bollinger Bands width again reached that horizontal line, and a bit of a relief rally all the way up to that 50-day moving average. So far the Bollinger Bands width hasn't really reached this threshold, so again, as I mentioned, perhaps there are still some legs within the ongoing rally in platinum. Looking at the 14-day RSI, we see that RSI isn't really oversold yet. A lot of these rallies, at least since the pandemic low, did kind of fizzle out when this 14-day RSI at least came kind of close to that level of 70. So over here, for example, in May, RSI is just poking above 70. That was a bit of a local high on prices. Again, something like that in July 2020, when RSI is reaching that level of 70, a bit of a local high. And as you see, more examples in December, February this year, and so on. However, there have been examples, as in July this year, for example, where the 14-day RSI was pretty far from the level of 70 when price actually turned back down. However, if you look at the weekly chart, going same all the way back to 2018 or so, we see that this 14-week RSI is still pretty far from getting overbought. So again, there are perhaps some legs to the ongoing rally, and yes, perhaps this 14-week RSI will not become overbought. But again, looking at history, it looks like some of those recent rallies did actually kind of fizzle out when RSI was somewhere around the level of say 63 or so. That's the level where my mouse cursor is at the moment. As you see, this level where my mouse is touching many of the 14-week RSI peaks, which coincided with relatively local price peaks. So again, there is still some space left between where the 14-week RSI right now and this level of say 63. Now next, let's have a look at the Optimism index on platinum, going back all the way to mid-2017. What do we see over here? Usually whenever this Optimism index comes somewhere around the level of 30, that's generally a good opportunity to get some platinum before it rallies, at least over the next several weeks. That's been the general situation in most of the cases since mid-2017, with one exception over here in mid-2018, where a drop below the level of 30 on this Optimism index wasn't enough before buying opportunity came. Platinum continued to go down all the way down to around $760, and the optimism on this metal reached very low levels, somewhere around the level of 15. Basically nearly everybody was really pessimistic on platinum. What's going on right now? Well, as I often say, nobody knows the future. It's possible that platinum just continues down all the way down to $800 to retest perhaps some of the lows from second half of 2020, but looking at history, perhaps it's not very likely. What's been more common, at least over the last 4 years, is for platinum to bounce a little bit whenever this Optimism index reached all the way down to around 30. Sometimes lower than that, into around 25 or so, but sometimes higher than 30, as it happened over here in the second half of 2020. So based on this chart as well, I still do like the outlook for platinum, at least over the intermediate term, perhaps over the next several weeks, a few months perhaps. Next, let's have a look at seasonality. And what do you see? Usually the end of the year, November and December, are pretty good for platinum. And just like for gold, the time around the Chinese New Year, somewhere around January and February, is usually pretty good for precious metals, including platinum. So seasonality is also pointing to upward momentum in platinum, again, perhaps over the next several months. And lastly, let's have a look at COT reports, but in a bit of a different form. In this case, I'm going to look at hedger's position. That's basically looking at the position of smart money the commercials, the commercial hedgers, which are generally playing the market versus the speculators, large and small speculators. The smart money would often include the dealers such as bullion banks and the producers. So it's most common for producers and dealers to be negative or to be in a short position. It's not common that the smart money goes net long as it happened over here in mid-2018, but a reduction in net short positions is perhaps an interesting sign looking at this smart money hedgers positions. So as you see, even though the hedgers would be still net short, whenever they aren't selling very much, that's generally when platinum is near its local low. So as we see right now, we are looking at a bit of a peak in the hedgers position in the smart money. Perhaps this rise will still continue as it happened over here during the time indicated by this red circle. But again, looking at history, it's been more common that local lows on platinum prices took place when these hedges position was somewhere between -20 and 0 rather than above 0. Hence, although yes, a decline in platinum might still continue, bringing even the smart money into positive territory, but if history does what it usually does, if it kind of rhymes, it's likely we're going to see some sort of a rally in platinum and a decline in this blue line of hedges position, where actually the net short positions are increasing. So talking about my personal positions, I do have a large position in precious metals, but not in platinum. As I mentioned in some of my older videos, most of my precious metals related positions are in silver, because I think silver might actually do really well once precious metals are ready to bounce over an intermediate to longer term. All of my trades are tracked by this model portfolio all the way since mid-2020, as far as I remember, which shows total transparency to the members at myfinancesteacher.org. And since around July 2020, as far as I remember, the model portfolio right now is perhaps somewhere around 50 to 60% up. And I expect that performance to improve with some of the upcoming events. For now, I wish you a pleasant day and good luck in your trades.